Hello, everybody, and welcome to DM Writer's Room, a show where we demystify the DMing process by coming up with adventures, monsters, magic items, and all kinds of fun stuff live. I'm happy to announce that my system is working a little bit more correctly, so I can't actually see the YouTube chat. So I suppose if we have any heinous audio issues, let me know. Sometimes I discover them after the fact, so even if you are normally a silent watcher, just pop in with a quick, hey. If something does go screwballed, I guess we'll see. So
We actually love it when our viewers tell us errors. Like if you can't hear us, please tell us.
yeah, big
We're
one.
not mimes.
I have in fact discovered before we were running a game, Spencer's very fun Monster of the Week full arc that we did. We were just all silent for 15 minutes, and we had 4 viewers who were like, it's a performance art piece, just sitting there watching us silently. And I like that they were like, I bet this is part of the adventure. I love that they really thought we were going with something high concept, but it's something.
Spencer stole their voices.
Yeah,
What
exactly.
an interesting
Oh
maneuver.
my god.
Who would have thought it? So today we are going to do something we've done a little bit before, where we take part of the D&D game that does not work very well, and we fix it. That's the first thing we're going to do. The second thing we're going to do after break, we have not figured out yet, but I'm sure we will come up with something very exciting. So that means we're going to spend about 45 minutes working on...
I have an idea for the after.
Great. Closer to 40 minutes, working on the Lingering Injuries table. Now, if you don't know what this is, that might be because you are familiar with the 2024 Player's Handbook, which does not have the Lingering Injuries table, but the 2014 one did. Now, this is a perfectly fine part of the... this is a perfectly fine component, but it's a little odd. The abilities are all extremely involved and kind of hard to follow. One of them is you gain an internal injury that you need to roll on each round to find out if you have an action, but also it can be healed, and there's different rules for that. And all of this is supposed to happen anytime you get critted on or fall unconscious. And that's just too much. It's a little too debilitating for my purposes. And also, I thought it would be kind of fun to make you two sort of build the gallows, as it were, because of course we are using the Lingering Injuries table right now in our main game, and I immediately discovered, as some of our viewers no doubt noticed, that it's not the most functional piece of property in the old DM's guide. I was quickly like, this is so much to explain to Stefan right now, just because of a crit. I was like, we can't do this. So I see a couple of paths ahead here. Number 1, how many terrible things can happen? Number 2, how often do these terrible things happen? Is it every time somebody rolls a crit, or is it only when you fall unconscious? And then number 3, did we want to delineate at all? Did we want to have like magic injuries as opposed to physical injuries? I don't think I want to go so far as to be like slashing injuries, bludgeoning injuries, piercing injury. I think that's a little much. But yeah, so that's what we're doing, at least in the first part of today. And I'm curious what you all think. I don't hate the idea of 1d20 options, but I could move it down to 1d12 and not be too mad about it. All that really matters there is if it's 1d12, then number 1 probably shouldn't be as bad as if it's 1d20. If it's 1d20, number 1 can be you are decapitated, you die instantly. If it's a d12, number 1 is probably going to be something with a little less teeth. What are our early thoughts?
There's there's like 3 thoughts rambling around right now. But first, I think if we're doing it every time somebody's critted, I think we need like a D50 or something like that. If it's only when you go unconscious, I think it's like a D20.
I agree. I would go for whenever somebody goes unconscious. Every time a nat 20 happens is really pretty often, and I feel like it takes you out of combat a little bit.
Especially
if it's like pre-death save, you roll it. It's great.
Sorry, chat just heard me rip a label off a bottle because I remembered YouTube's rules, and I apologize for that. That's my bad. Okay, so it seems like we have a preference for... we have a preference for going unconscious. If we
I'm
wanted
cool
it
with
to,
that.
if we wanted it to happen a little more, because this is also stuff you are going to be inflicting on people in the event that you crit. I had a proposal in my back pocket. Feel free to say no. Which is that we would introduce a version of the earlier D&D / Pathfinder system of confirming crits, which is crit on somebody once, whatever. But then so there's two ways to do this, and you can say no to both. I just want to know what you two think. This is the real benefit of having so many people, is I get to sort of survey my small audience here. So number one, the way that confirming a crit actually works. Some people have sort of convinced themselves that it is more elaborate, that you need to roll 2 natural 20s in a row. It's not the case. Is you roll, and if you get a nat 20, you say, great, I'm going to confirm. You roll again, and if the number you roll would hit their AC, you confirm. And the second option is obviously another crit. So if we wanted it to happen a little bit more often than only when you are knocked unconscious, we would add that system where, let's say, Michael's character, Lemon, the Eldritch Knight Gunslinger, and if that didn't entice you to come watch the show, what's gonna? The Eldritch Knight Gunslinger rolls and gets a 20. He says, great. He has like, what, a plus 12?
Yeah.
Plus 12. And then it's like, all right, I'm going to confirm the crit. Rolls again. I got a 2 plus 12, 14. Does not confirm, no injury. Or we could say, you only get an injury if you are knocked unconscious.
If we are applying it so we're giving it to enemies also, I would do it on confirm, because when we're playing, I can't speak for the entire world, when our group's playing, we're not really putting people unconscious often.
It's not.
Yeah.
Spencer?
I'm gonna push against. I think that it should just be a PC thing. I don't think it needs to go to enemies. I think that putting more things to keep track of, more status effects for the DM to, keep on the table will just slow things down. And I am not in the business of slowing down combat.
That's fair.
I'm a big proponent of the opposite. So I would just do when you go unconscious, and it's just for PCs.
We have a lot of NPCs this campaign, though, don't we? We have a lot of, pretty normal dudes. You're still anti, huh?
Still against it. I feel like you could use it as a flavor text for knocking enemies unconscious, where it's like, oh yeah, you beat this guy, and now he's got a huge scar across his face.
Now, I do want to say, okay, so I will agree, only because any non-monstrous NPC that is knocked unconscious will have death saves in this game.
Yeah.
So
that's pretty fun.
Okay.
So that's my take.
Great.
I think just limit it mostly.
In that case, then I don't think we need to kick things all the way up to like 1d50 or 1d100 or something like that. We can keep it a little bit more, a little smaller than that. Michael, what's your thought?
The other thing is, we were talking about delineating between magic and physical. I think a cool thing to do, have a D20, but also do a D2. If you roll heads, it's magical. If you roll tails, it's magical.
Explain.
I
meant
would
more if the thing that brings you down is a magical attack versus if the thing that brings you down is a physical or mundane attack.
I don't know. When we're talking D&D, there's always magic at play with the greater gods and all that.
Do you think that you would get a curse for upsetting
Sure.
the god of combat in your battle? I don't know. I would. Again, I don't want it to be too complicated. I want the DM to go, you're unconscious, D20, boom, it's this thing, without really having to justify it too much.
All right, well then in the interest of time, we will shuffle on. So, do we think there should be 1d20 options, and the 1 is the worst thing you can fucking imagine? Or do we think there should be 1d12 or 1d10, and a 1 is certainly very bad, but you are instantly decapitated?
Let's start assuming it'll be 1d20 with 1 being the worst and it being bad.
So,
and if we don't get 20, then we can kind of pull back and hit a d12 or something.
And so here's my number one question, though. So this isn't really too hard of a thing here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. And then I'm going to make a special little 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So, if you get a 1, my actual vote, if you get a mundane 1, is that you are decapitated and you die instantly. That's my real thing. I think on the lingering injuries table, if you get a 1, your lingering injury is that you are dead.
And I don't think anybody would be using this that isn't trying to play a fairly dark setting. So I think that works. Your head gets chopped off. Revivify won't work. Your head's not on your body.
So number 1, I have a decapitation. Now, I think I also have to insist, because 1 is so bad, I think the rest of them are bad no matter what.
Yeah.
What good happens if you get 20?
20, maybe it's some version of like, you get hit, you fall, and when you hit your head on the ground, it jolts you back, so you get 1 HP. It's, you get concussed, you're up.
So I
want
it to be even better than that, because if
Wow.
you're normally rolling your death saves, if we didn't have this system and you rolled a 1, that would be 2 death save fails, but not instant death. So adding that when you fall unconscious there is a risk of instant death makes me think that just as our 1 is a little worse, the 20's got to be a little better.
A little bit better.
Do you want to give them? Oh, sorry.
No, I was gonna say my first thought was maybe you get to roll a hit die and you get like 1 hit die of HP back. My second thought is maybe you get you bounce back and can immediately take an action.
My thought wasn't that you bounce back, just to move us a little bit further away. It would be, you're coming down with me. You get to take 1 action as you fall unconscious that will injure the enemy that you're currently in combat with, right? You cast Fireball, Delayed Blast Fireball, whatever. You just let something rip. You swing your axe and you hit them, and then you fall unconscious. So you get a free action. You essentially get like a haste for a second.
That's super similar to what I was thinking. You come back, we call it like adrenaline rush. It's haste for 1 turn.
You know what? I actually, so I think I do like the idea. You get a full action, and it's like an adrenaline rush. I kind of like what it really is that anime thing where the guy dies and he's still standing up, and his eyes are white. Yeah. Okay, I like it. All right, 1 action. And Spencer brings up a really good point. Those can be pretty gnarly. And so I think if it's an attack action, it's like your whole attack action. It's the like 5 swings that you get.
Yeah.
All right. So 1 action for free, I think, is awesome. So I'll say, do we want to go from absolutely horrible up? That seems easiest to me. So like, what's a little better than decapitation? My first instinct is you lose a limb.
Yeah, that arm's gone, baby. Leg gone.
Now here's a question. Now we need to fill 20 slots.
There are 4 of them.
Here's a loaded question. We're leaning on, we have some medical experience in the house, which is what makes us a perfect group to talk about this. Would you argue that it is worse to lose an arm or a leg?
In combat, a fucking leg.
Yeah. I was leaning leg.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So on a 2.
I think in normal day life, losing an arm's worse. In combat, losing a leg's worse.
Yeah.
So a 2 is lose a leg. So that means like I'm talking like at the knee.
Yeah.
Pretty brutal.
Do they lose half mobility on that, or?
I think everything is
Great
difficult
question.
terrain. I think everything is difficult terrain. So if you're prone, you're moving at quarter speed. And if you can manage to get up, you're moving at half speed. That's my first inclination. So what it would be is, regardless, before any other modifier is applied, your speed is halved until you can find a suitable replacement.
Are we calling it like dominant leg, non-dominant leg, dominant hand, non-dominant hand?
I think it's got to
just be...
Or
are we calling it left, right, left, right?
I think I was gonna go leg, arm. I think we need to.
You're not gonna do all 4.
Okay. I think that's a little much. I think you get to pick kind of flavor wise. It doesn't really matter. It's only extremely funny if you fall unconscious, get brought back up, fall back unconscious, and you lose both. I think you need to be like immune to this table. So for those of you just tuning in now, we are recreating the lingering injuries table from the 2014 Player's Handbook. So far, it is only going off when somebody is knocked unconscious. A 1 is you are instantly killed, and a 2 is you lose a leg. Your speed is halved before any other negative is applied. That's important language, DM Writer's Room. That's important language because if you are also in difficult terrain, your speed is quartered. If you are also prone, your speed is eighth. It is exponential when you say this happens before any other subtraction or effect. So if that's lose a leg, pretty brutal stuff. Spencer brings up a good point about like which leg do you lose. I think because we can kind of string them together. So then my question is, number 3, is it losing a full arm, right? Or is it losing a foot? Is losing a foot a little better?
No, I wouldn't want it to get that, noodly.
Okay.
It would be a little bit better if I'm being super for real about it, but I don't think for the game mechanics we'll do it.
Lose an arm, thankfully, I think is pretty intuitive. You can't do the stuff that takes 2 arms.
Yep.
That's kind of on the tin, right? We don't need to worry about that too much.
I agree.
Okay, you were pondering for a minute. I was like, Michael's deciding.
Yeah, I think number 4, pneumothorax. That is.
Yes,
thank you.
Yes.
There you go. Continue.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Deflated lung.
Yeah, I mean, obviously. That's pretty good. Is there anything worse than that, do you think?
Worse than pneumo? Oh my god.
Is it really?
I mean,
no, you're the expert.
Pneumothorax suck. But yeah, you can't get full breath, and it's just painful.
All right, so
I would do disadvantage on all attacks and saves.
I had
probably.
a mean one. I think you can only take an action or a bonus action.
Ooh, yeah. That's
I think
that's
you
fun.
have to choose. You either take one action or one bonus action. You can't do fucking both on your turn anymore.
Yeah, that makes sense. The only thing I was thinking was like permanent fatigue.
So because this is lingering effects, how do we fix them? What's our intended fix? Because I know there's like regrowth.
So we have a cutoff here. So I think 1s, 2s, and 3s. I think a decapitation obviously needs a major working of magic, and I think a 2 and
get resurrected.
I think a 2 and a 3 need a regrowth spell.
Yeah,
and then I think probably like 4 to 9, it should be a greater restoration, something pretty serious, and then I think above that it's just magical healing, anything.
Got it.
That's fair.
I see we have a comment from James.
James brings up a good point.
Oh, hi.
James uses like a 2d6 system so that the bell curve is a little kinder and you are more likely to get the middle options, which I think in most campaigns is a absolutely perfect choice, but in with the sort of vibe we are going for, unfortunately, is a little too
Grim.
polite.
I think if you're trying for less grimdark, you could do 2d10s.
And I do want to say, I really respect you, guy who left when Michael started talking about collapsed lungs. I like that you know your boundaries. You said pneumothorax, and he was like, I'll stay around. And then you said deflated lung, and he went, oh, and left you. And you know what? I appreciate you. You won't see this.
I respect it.
But I get it. All right. So 1, you need to be revived big style. 2, 3, regrowth. Let's say 4 through 9, I think you need a greater restoration. You need something with some real meat and potatoes. What's
I
up?
do have one other that might be a regrowth and it's pretty good. Might be worse than pneumo.
Okay.
Lose an eye.
Of course.
Ooh,
We're fools.
yeah.
Let me get the eraser out. All right. Lose an eye. What is that? Disadvantage on ranged attacks?
The other range, probably both. You don't have any depth perception.
Yeah, so just disadvantage on attacks.
Yeah, I feel disadvantage on attacks is solid. Also, waking up with no eye, falling unconscious is crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy in game. And if you lose an eye, there's that one item that you use to replace an eyeball. It's like an uncommon magic item.
No, this is a little bit of a non sequitur. King Salmonfish says, and I will quote, "First of all, I'm far too much of an amateur to claim to know anything, but I was musing today the technicalities of a Medusa, a weeping angel, and a standard bear at once." So
How would you combine them?
I think it's what would happen if these three things fought.
Oh, okay. So
A
Medusa,
bit of an intermission. Fight club.
Fight
1 minute
Club,
fight club.
Medusa, Weeping Angel, Standard Bear. So my first thought, if I do think if a Medusa looks at a Weeping Angel, the Weeping Angel becomes a normal statue.
Do you think so? I wasn't sure. Are weeping angels actually made out of stone already?
So it is Weeping Angels are quantum entities. They only exist as entities when not being perceived.
okay.
So I don't think they turn to. I think a Weeping Angel is
They're
as
good.
dangerous to a Medusa as
Yep.
anything else could be. So the real question is, can the bear kill the Weeping Angel while it is being? Can a bear crush a stone statue?
I don't think it
Oh
could.
no! King Salmonfish has clarified. You are a D&D character in a fight with those three creatures.
Oh.
You both,
First of all,
because
just to end it.
Salmonfish has said
Just
you
end it.
can't look, you can't not look, and while trying to solve this puzzle, a bear is attacking you.
All right. Here's my game plan. I turn around.
Brief break for anybody who's lost track. We are working on a lingering injuries table. We have taken a small non sequitur to discuss.
Yes, sort of the implications of this combat. I would. All right, D&D me. This is not real.
Yeah, so
I would jump onto the bear's back,
Harold.
grabbing onto it,
Leaps.
stare for as long as I can at the weeping angel, hoping the bear attacks the Medusa, giving that sort of a look between each other so I can keep my eyes on the weeping angel. The Medusa, I assume, will walk around the periphery and I'll be forced to look and then I will die. But at least I go out pretty cool.
I think you have a pretty good statistical chance that the bear turned to stone, collapses onto the Medusa,
pins.
and then you just need to pivot around the Weeping Angel and then back out of the cave, and you might be fine.
Or are they in a symbiotic relationship and I can't pit them against each other at all?
If they're all
And
together.
If these are three cooperating creatures, we're done. We're cooked. It's over.
The D&D gods would fall to that puzzle.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you for the thinker, King Salmonfish. So number 4 is lose an eye. You have disadvantage on attacking stuff. Makes sense. I think you probably have disadvantage on attacking things and saving throws that have to do with sight. Hey, write that.
Your perception is halved.
No, there you go. Actually, I think no damage to saving throws because you can still jump out of the way. I think it's disadvantage on attack rolls. And I think, Michael, you're correct. I think your passive perception is halved. Literally because you lose your peripheral on a whole side of your head.
You know what's also funny, though? People that use blind sight are immune to this.
Yeah, if you have blind sight, you are immune to this condition. I think is really funny. It's like, I literally couldn't care less about this, right? That's pretty funny. Lose an eye disadvantage, I like it. All right. So then number 5 is deflated lung, and I think that makes sense. I think that makes number 5, deflated lung, our first thing that is healed by like a greater restoration. Act.
Now, what would be next on a greater restoration fix?
Yeah, deflated lung. I would say my instinct, the next thing would be broken leg. Your speed is halved.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right?
And that's just
Regrowth
fully
seems like
rubbing
way
along.
too much to just get a couple of bits of bone together.
Yeah.
Now, this is a question I'm going to pivot to Michael. So my instinct was to say, because losing a leg was the worst, that breaking a leg would be the worst of the bones to break. Breaking rib. Better or worse? Better or worse
than breaking like, oh my god, breaking a rib is nothing.
Okay.
It's something, but
you can keep fighting with a broken rib.
Yeah. The only, from a medical standpoint, usually when ribs break, doctors don't do anything. They'll heal on their own. The only time that you do have to fix a broken wrist, like really fix
Pneumothorax.
it. Exactly. It's because it might cause a pneumothorax if they're the term is flailed chest. When it's broken inward, usually heavy trauma. And then there's a chance of them poking through the lung, causing pneumos.
So pretty chill.
Yeah, rib, it will suck. It'll hurt. We can have that as like an 18, a 19.
So for the
I
record,
would say-
I have had to make a change. If breaking your leg halves your speed, losing a leg quarters your speed.
Sure.
There's I can't fight that.
I would do broken arm, and it would be you're limited to one attack action per round. So you don't get to swing 3 times if you're a fighter. You get one swing until you get it fixed.
Need that to hurt a mage as well. That's my
Yeah.
only thing. That's where a lot of the disadvantage comes from. Because I like the concept of dishing out disadvantage because that can affect everybody. Whereas if you start limiting actions like that, it's only on marshals. Now, maybe there's an argument to be made there, right? A spellcaster would be less affected.
If we get later on, give like concussed, you have disadvantage on intelligence checks.
Perfect.
And
Yes.
Can I tell you something? Literally, what in my head the minute you said. Okay, so in
Lesson.
a 7, break arm is that attack reduction. I think that's really cool. And then an 8 is concussion.
Yeah, that works.
Can I put forward an incredibly bad version? You cannot concentrate on spells.
Oh, yeah, that's pretty fun.
Sorry.
Right?
And it would still
Concentration is
work for like mixed classes. So
And if you can
See,
So, like, if you can still lay out, like, fire bolts and stuff or scorching rays, that's fine, because it's reactive magic. You're just blasting. But trying to keep an incantation going with a concussion just isn't going to happen.
what I was thinking about, too, with that, it's really bad for spellcasters, but not as bad for melee. Crush larynx or...
Does that not just kill you? I thought that when your larynx got crushed, you just stopped being able to
I say
breathe.
crushed. It's more like wrecked.
James has announced that he needs to go get some Fig Newtons into Dr. Pepper. We have made him queasy. James, you're a soldier. Hang in there.
This is a queasy stream.
So we are continuing to try to make a new lingering injuries table. So far we have number 1, you are decapitated. Number 2, you lose a leg. Number 3, you lose an arm. Number 4, you lose an eye. Number 5, deflated lung. Number 6, broken leg. Number 7, broken arm. Number 8, concussion. Is concussion a little light?
I feel like it's a little lighter than our current.
So here's
path.
the thing. So I'm going to ask, let's pose this question here. I want the consequence to be you cannot concentrate on spells. But I need something worse than a concussion. What is worse than
fractured
getting
skull.
your bell rung so very hard as that? Is it like, Spencer, is it fractured skull? Like, is it...
What is it? Edema? A brain
Where you
edema?
go with this?
Is that
Oh my
brain swelling?
god. I mean, it's not quite brain edema, but there's brain swelling.
James, we're going to get right to you in a minute. You've nailed it, but that's in our next cat. That's 10 through 15 if I've ever seen one. Okay, so what is it, like broken skull?
I would do fractured skull, yeah.
Oh god.
Pretty bad.
Fractured skulls are bad.
Do I need to draw a little arrow? Is this worse than a broken leg?
Depends on what you want the effect to be.
It's you cannot concentrate on spells,
yeah.
which is pretty gnarly.
I think worse than a broken leg. It's worse for some people. That's for sure. They're on equal footing, if you will, between a fighter and a wizard. But
I'd say put it before arm, after leg.
Okay. King Salmonfish is now glorying in having wowed our intellectual minds. I appreciate that.
extremely sharp intellects, though, so I'll take that.
Okay. Don't mind if I do. All right. So then number 9, this is our last thing that needs a greater restoration to get help, right? What is it?
Slip disc.
Yeah, all right.
Broken back.
Thrown out back. Man, that's rough.
So what do we think that does to you?
I don't know.
Like massively reduced carrying capacity is my first thought. I think
Yeah.
maybe I have a very gnarly one. Anytime you take damage, you take an additional d6 of damage.
There's that.
You can't get out of the way. Yeah.
You can't move in armor.
I was gonna say the same. You can't wear armor because it's too hefty. Got like 70 pounds of plate on. You're not getting anywhere, brother.
James, I apologize. James has said too close to home. I bless your disc. May it get better in soon time.
Too close to
Ooh.
home here as well.
Yeah, we've had a lot of. I have to say those tricky discs, man. You get over the age
We're
of like
not built that good.
You get over like 24, and those discs get tricky all of a sudden.
Yeah. So we'll call it a spinal cord injury because
Oh my god! Spinal
specific.
cord injury is worse than that.
Yeah.
But we only have 20 options, and listen, we don't need to do too many. Okay, so so back problem. I guess I'll say I'll try to keep our things relatively even here. My only issue is if this happens in combat. Well, it wouldn't. You're unconscious.
Yeah.
So, but like
you might be brought back.
But yeah, so
and
if you're brought
then-
back and you've taken this and you can't wear armor, what do we
You're
do
kind of
next?
stuck. Yeah.
You're just stuck flat on the
Um,
ground.
Yeah,
And if you're the
so-
wizard, you're like, I'm not wearing
Whatever.
armor.
Yeah. I don't know. It's so truly debilitating that it could affect anything. I think the additional D6 every time you take damage works. You're not getting out of the way of things. Even when you do, like, take half damage, you're still taking more because you didn't do it.
Let me offer an alternate. I think it's either that or you are essentially baned until the injury is fixed. Subtract 1d4 from everything you do because you are just constantly distracted. And given the people I
Yeah.
know who have dealt with these problems, that's pretty
Yeah.
accurate.
Yeah,
I
that's
think
good.
that's great. And
Yeah.
you could add in limited carrying capacity of a certain weight as well.
Yeah.
Or we could save that for a different injury. So put a little question mark next to that one.
I have a good one. I'm going to make it a little overly complicated, but I think it works. You take a minus d6 to everything, but if you take all your armor off and somebody else carries your bag, it's minus d4.
You know, I
You
think
can
that works.
take the edge off if other people carry your shit. You can sort of loosen it up. And that is the end of category 2. So that is 5 through 9. Those are the you need a greater restoration. Somebody
Real
needs to
bad
grind up
things,
some
yeah.
diamond dust and make you better. Now we're in what shockingly is kind of easy street here. I need numbers 10 through 14. And then we're off into the things that are like, who even cares? They're like, who even cares if this happens to you?
Did we keep concussed or did we replace it with something else?
We
Replaced.
replaced it with a fracture, a full skull bonk.
I think that concussion would belong on this list
Yeah.
versus the nothing list.
So-
Concussions suck.
So this is like lesser restoration would fix it,
Mhm.
or maybe if you are magically healed for over 20 points at once.
That's fun. I like that
Mhm.
because it's not like a spell, like a spell level. So a paladin could lay on hands and fix this. That's cool. It's a fun metric.
So number 10, what do we think is the worst of this, right? It's a little bit better. It's not as bad as not being able to concentrate or taking a permanent minus d6 or d4, but it still sucks. We are sort of thinking, I think in a good way, and like its outer limbs are one of the worst things to happen to you in combat, and then we move into injuries where it's like in the long term, that's worse. But in combat, minus d4, if somebody casts Bless, it kind of balances itself out, right? And so it's like, this is a worse thing in the long term, but is fine in the short term. Much like losing the eye disadvantage is like, that's bad. It's not as bad as movement speed being 1/4. You know, like it is a little bit of a
Yeah.
different league of injury. So, what is number 10?
I would do like persistent bleeding. So this could be additional damage when you get hit, or it could be every round you take a d4.
Now, I love that, but if you take that and then you fall unconscious, you will
You're
fail a
getting
death save
gunned,
every
yeah.
round.
Uh-huh.
We can do additional damage when taking damage then.
And that was the flip, was the additional damage. I think would be an easier thing to navigate.
So my question then is a 10 bleeding and a 9 additional damage? Is a 10 like this person's life is in mortal danger?
Yeah, I think so, because this is the worst of the lesser injuries.
Because keep in mind, this will be healed by magical healing. This is the kind of thing that can be fixed in combat.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, so here's what I'm going to say. I'm going to say bleed minus d6.
Mhm,
And then I'm going to do something very mean. I'm going to say it is stopped with an action. Somebody else can run up and apply pressure.
Staunch that wound.
And that's
yeah.
what they do with their action that round, is they just sit there. And so you can sort of have that happen. James has said loose bowels, emotional damage.
That's 19.
That's
19 right
James,
there.
I think you just made the
Write
list.
that one
I
down.
Yeah.
think that's 19. 19. Shit your pants. I'm right.
House, shit your pants.
Shit your pants. This is my favorite. I've long been wanting to play a character. Oh my god, that was really good. Who just would cast a command to be like, shit.
Oh.
It's just so funny. All right. So 10 is bleed, and then 11 is increasing the damage that you take. What feels like it would cause something like that?
Damn.
I would say, well, Monk has sort of taken some of these thoughts, but like a sternum strike, where you're just you've got the wind knocked out of you essentially, or your sternum's cracked, so you're not blocking as effectively as you could be. It's not going to limit you as far as like a lost limb, but it's going to make it so you take more damage because you're just getting walloped. So I think like a sternum crack, I'd say having like the wind knocked out of you is too low, because that's something that anything could heal.
Yeah.
What do you think, Michael?
Yeah, I like that. A sternum crack is good. We want to get technical. It really make it like a xiphoid process.
Write down xiphoid process.
Can you
Put it on
shoot
the
the
list.
dumb laser at xiphoid process for me? Can you?
Xiphoid process is when you have the sternum right here. You guys aren't old enough yet. The tip of the sternum, the very bottom, is the xiphoid process. When it gets to about 35-ish, it turns into hard cartilage.
You're not old enough.
Yeah, I'm not either. But once you get to 35-ish, that turns into hard cartilage, and when you're hit in that, it can break off.
So that's what happened to Mike Tyson. I see.
But yeah, that would do that.
Now we have a vital question to ask. Does it add a d4 damage? Does it add a d6 damage? Does it add 1 damage die of damage? Like,
I've been sort of imagining mid-tier play, and that's not fair, because this table can be used for level 1 players as well. I think D4 is a fair amount of extra damage for the mid-tier injuries.
Yeah, I'm cool with that.
and we could say, if you are a tier 1 party, it is 1d4. If you are a tier 2 party, it is 1d6. If you are a tier 3 party, it is 1d10. Thinking about it in terms of tiers of play. Actually, my instinct for that would be it's 1d4, 2d4, 3d4, 4d4.
Yeah.
Plus d4. And then I'll put in parentheses tier question mark. Okay. For number 12, I turn to an older comment that James made a few minutes ago. Dislocated limb.
Yeah.
You cannot take an action with that limb unless somebody uses an action to set it back into place.
That's
so.
fun.
Do we want to do lower extremity, upper extremity? So we have 2. Nice.
Listen,
2 more down, baby. Let's go.
I was about to say, anytime we can split it like that.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. All right, dislocated.
Yeah.
Arm up top. Leg up top, arm down below.
I do have an idea. It might go a little lower though.
Just once.
Yeah.
Action.
Yeah, dislocations are good though. You know what's going to be funny is wait, no, you can't choose where dislocation is. I was thinking like a dislocated jaw. Can't speak.
King
but
Salmon
yeah.
Fish, you got me wanting to run this combat. Just a bear versus a Medusa versus his turn stuff. There you go. What were you saying, Michael?
The idea I was having for a little lower, it'd be like damage to the nervous system almost, and I like the effect that would come with like having healing, having the heal pool that you get healed for in half.
Oh, your heals
sort
are
of the
halved.
opposite of
Can I
like
say
beacon
something?
of healing.
So this has taken a little longer than we thought it would. If we were going to do magic, injuries after this, that's where I would put soul burn. When you are healed, you only heal half.
Yeah.
That feels a little too magical for me, having that healing like that. I don't know. Unless you're thinking that like the energy is eaten up by the nerves, right? Like needing to...
Yeah, there's something like that. But if we want to save for magic, I'm cool with that too.
James, interesting point on the bleed. We already have bleed with needing an action. You may have been getting some Fig Newtons and a Dr. Pepper. An action to keep the bleed from being worse. But maybe if you are conscious, you can burn your own bonus action to like hold it. Not a bad idea.
Yeah.
So let's finish up this round here. We've got bleed, sternum crack, dislocated leg, dislocated arm. What's a little bit better than that, but not as bad as what comes next?
Broken nose.
Broken nose. I
That's
think broken
fun.
nose has got to be like 17, right? Broken nose is just
Fair.
-1 charisma or something.
I've been thinking about minuses to stats where it's like, solar plexus hit would be reduced constitution, scarred face, I could see minus to charisma, broken nose minus charisma,
Now,
stuff like that.
Now we currently, our numbers left right now are 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. And if shit your pants is -1 charisma, then we could just rattle down the stats list right now.
Yeah.
We could.
That's easy.
Yeah.
The thought that somebody needs you to use a little bit of magic to unshit your pants is too good.
You got what is it? Prestidigitation.
Yeah.
You got to prestidigitate the pants clean.
Now it's got to be -1 con has to be in this terrible bracket, right? That's the worst option.
Yeah, because then it's messing with your ability to get back up.
So what do we think gives you a -1 to Constitution?
Depends on that, right?
Yeah, but we already referenced the
Sternum.
sternum.
Yeah. Okay.
Or we could just make that sternum crack worse.
It could be like a kidney shot. You've been hitting the kidney, and now that fully rocks you. A kidney strike. Bruised kidney, yeah. That shit definitely limits your con.
Bruised kidney.
Yep, that works.
And that's our
I think this is where...
Because keep in mind, anytime that happens, you lose a number of HP equal to your level.
Yep.
That's not fun.
Yeah.
That sucks.
I think Bruised Kidney is good, and I think it's good that it takes like a lesser restoration. Because it's like, oh no. Like, yeah.
Very, very fair. I think this is a good spot for the concussion too. That reduces your int by 1.
Did we already put the concussion in?
No, we replaced the concussion.
Oh yeah, with the cracked skull.
So then do we think here's the problem is all the rest of these stats are very useful. Right? So it doesn't really matter what order they go in as much, because it's just going to be strength, because it's strength, strength, dex, intelligence, wisdom, charisma. So it's basically, hopefully you don't roll your primary stat, and that's it. Like, that's all you really hope for.
Yeah.
For dexterity, it would be a clipped hamstring. You got hit with the sword, or you backstep too far, and it just popped your hamstring. So now you have -1 dex.
So clipped ham -1 dex. I think I'm gonna do nerve pinch -1 strength. Because I feel like that's what happens when you pinch a nerve. You can't exert the force that you want to a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so that leaves us with Constitution and Wisdom. Because as we all know, courtesy of James, -1 charisma, you shit your pants. And everybody saw. You're less charismatic.
Yeah. You lost aura there.
You lost aura.
We already did Constitution.
Yeah, sorry, I meant Wisdom and Intelligence.
Ah, okay.
Ooh. Okay, so intelligence would be concussion.
Great.
That's easy. Wisdom. What
Wisdom's
makes you less
weird.
wise in combat? Is it, rage? You've been induced into a rage by being knocked
Yeah,
unconscious.
It's like being drunk. It's like being enraged.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I think that's what. If it wasn't just that, if we were adding flavor to it, it would be you are consumed with wanting revenge against the thing that knocked you out. So you are just going to throw yourself at it. But that doesn't really work with the thing we're doing.
I know that's one of the things that, like, if your brain swells, isn't that one of the things that can happen? You get, like, hyper aggressive.
You can, yeah. Oh, yeah.
You get rabies.
The problem is, rabies is the same thing as being decapitated. You're gonna die.
Yeah, you're
like,
done.
there's
You're
nothing to
done.
be done. It just
Yeah.
feels crazy to put clipped hamstring, concussion, nerve pinch, swollen brain.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
what could cause? I mean,
What would
The-
reduce
the
your
aggression-
inhibitions, right? Because that's really what wisdom is, right? It's your inhibitions, it's your ability to read the emotions of other people. What would disrupt that? Like, what would make you sort of strange in that way?
it is the swollen brain in a
Yeah, it's the
specific
brain
spot.
injury.
It could be. The other thing is like your adrenaline, your norepinephrine increasing so much, but that's I don't know
Oh.
how we could make an injury for that.
You could, though, be fight or flight. Like, you
Yeah.
are injured bad
Yeah.
enough that you do actually go full send. And, like, you are...
Mhm.
So if I was to name this, I would give it a sillier name. I would call it lizard brain. It's just like,
Yeah.
you really lose it. Like, you feel mortality coming for you in this moment, and you actually do kind of
just
lose
start
your
going
shit a
wild.
little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fun.
Okay. And with the addition of lizard brain, I am ready to read down the list for you guys. So,
Do it.
you are knocked unconscious. You then roll a d20 immediately. If you roll a 20, you get a free action, and then you fall unconscious. You took to it well. If you get a 19, you shit your pants. You get a -1 to charisma. If you get an 18, you go lizard brain. You have a -1 to wisdom. I like that being right below shit your pants. Number 17, you get a concussion, -1 to intelligence. Number 16, you pinch a nerve, you get a -1 to strength. Number 15, you clip a hamstring, you get a -1 to dex. Bruised kidney for 14, -1 con. 13, dislocated arm, somebody needs to use an action to reset it. Dislocated leg, you have half speed until somebody uses an action. Thank you for reminding us that the Pirate King is chaotic good, King Salmonfish. So we'll see you in the stars, friend. Sternum crack is an 11. That is plus D4 damage. Maybe D4 is equal to your tier. Number 10 is you have D6 of bleed that can be stopped by an action. Number 9, you slip a disc. You take a -D6, -D4 if you take all your armor off. Number 8, you crack your skull. You cannot concentrate on spells. Number 7, you break an arm. You can only take one attack. Number 6, you break a leg, your speed is halved. Number 5, you deflate a lung, action or bonus action each round. Number 4, you lose an eye, disadvantage. Thank you, Bill. Your name is very long. I'm going to say the part that's a name. Thank you very much for the subscribe. Number
Well, thank
3,
you,
you
Bill.
lose an arm. Can't use the arm. Number 2, you lose a leg, your speed is quartered. Number 1, you are decapitated. You die instantly. If that's not a lingering injuries table, what is?
That's for real.
Now, some
And
people
it's nice. I feel like it really did go through in a good order.
and now some of
Oh,
you might
yeah.
be thinking, doesn't that seem kind of lethal? I remind you that inspiration is flung around like candy now, and this is what I would use it for. I'm going to use a point of
Yeah.
inspiration, please.
Gonna reroll
It's,
that
I think really
one.
solid.
Oh, very. I had an idea, just for to involve the spellcasters a little bit more on this too. There was one fairly low on the table, where it's like you only take one attack per action.
Yes.
What was the injury for that?
That injury was a broken arm.
Broken arm. I think we could also do like you only use one spell per turn. Also, you can't do a bonus action spell. You can't do dual twin spell or dual spell, that kind of
A
stuff.
sorcerer limit.
So, but it could be you can only cast one spell.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So, like the whole bonus action spell cantrip on your action is out.
Gone.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it takes away the was it somaticness.
Okay, I gotcha. Yeah, there's a really nasty crit that I'm kind of looking for somewhere in the bottom that is you cannot cast a spell above level 5, but that feels too mean, so I think I'm going to leave it off. If we were being a little bit more grim and a little bit more dark, if when we had our session 0, everybody was like, I want it to be like Berserk, I'd have been like, different vibe. So here's what I'll say. We're at the 1 hour mark. We have 30 minutes left, about 28 minutes left on our usual stream time here. We got started just a smidge late. Do we want to try to make a list for if you are hit by magic? Or is this good and it is time to move on to a new topic?
I think that's good. I want to hear Michael's pitch for the new topic because we didn't hear it when we started.
So what I will say here is a little note for those of you just turning in, or those of, well, you thankfully have just heard us go over our list of the new lingering injuries table, which I'm sure we will put up somewhere for free very shortly. I am going to say I recommend using this if you are good at giving inspiration to your players and they can use those inspirations to not be decapitated. I wouldn't necessarily use this list as it is now if you are, see what I mean, like if you don't really give those out, I'd maybe back off a little bit. What you could do, this is literally what I would recommend, I would turn this D20 list into a D100 list, and I would basically make the first tier take up 3 numbers, the second tier take up 2. You see, you can kind of go down and build a buffer so that people are not getting decapitated and limbs lopped off left and right. Personally, I love stuff like this. And the kind of the thought that you're going to have to sort of adjust to that as a character, I tend to think is pretty interesting. So,
Definitely.
Michael,
Hi.
continue. What's our next thing?
So this has been a thought for like 2 or 3 weeks now. It's just a fun idea almost. It's making a very specific creature. And the creature I had in mind is a wild magic dragon. So his breath attacks are different forms.
Great. So we want to do, we've done these before. We called them creature features back in the day.
Yes.
This was our Halloween show last year, 2 years ago. I think it might have been 2 years ago. This was our sort of initial Halloween content, was we did some creature features. We took normal monsters and we added some spice. And what we want to do now is in a crisp 228, 28 minutes. I said the wrong number. In a crisp 28 minutes, we want to sort of deduce what a wild magic, what a dragon of wild magic would do. Well timed, for those of you who are not aware, they have started talking about what is in the new monster manual, and dragons that can always cast spells is on the list. It's implied that some of the colors of chromatic dragon just are casters now, instead of having alternate caster rules. Like green dragon, I think it's green and blue dragons just get spells.
Yeah.
So I think that this is well timed. So wild magic dragons. Let's start with something very simple here. Let's shoot for adult because ancient dragons are a little too complicated. Their numbers are a little too wide. So if this is an adult dragon, that means our CR, right, is in that, like, if memory serves, I want to say like 15 to 21 is roughly where our adult dragons land. Spencer, go take a look. If I got that number right, I'm gonna go get a Burger King crown or something to put on, because that was a cold pull. Let's see, because I think young dragons are like CR 8 through 12.
Yeah, adult red dragon is 17. I'm just gonna pull up the whole.
So that's the
list.
highest.
But
So
you're
then
already
there's
in
17,
there,
16,
yeah.
15, 14 probably. Because red dragon's
Yeah.
almost always the biggest and the
And
baddest.
green dragon gold. I'm pretty sure green's pretty low. 15 for green.
Yeah, so it's usually, I think it's usually white. I think it's usually white, blue, black, green, red, or white, blue, green, black, red. I don't quite remember off the top of my head. Okay, so not 15 to 21 then. So like 17 to 14. It's somewhere in there. So that means these are the levels where we get like serious. Okay. King Salmonfish, you're having a little bit of a moment in the comments here. You're really, he has spun a little bit of a web, and I keep looking and getting lost in the sauce of this tale you are weaving. Let me focus on my dragons, Kingfish. Okay, so somewhere between CR 14 and 17, so that means we have real legendary actions, we have real nasty attacks, and we like the idea of wild magic. Now, having the DM roll on a D100 table, I think might get a little cumbersome pretty quick. The only thing that we could do is, so like the breath weapon, right? Breath weapons are on a recharge, which means when you do your breath weapon, you roll a d6 on each subsequent turn, and usually on a 5 or a 6, or sometimes just a 6, you get that back. So what would a wild magic dragon's breath be? The easiest answer would be it is a random dragon breath. And we just sort of take that whole list and you go down through it. Now that's fun because there's also the metallic dragons who have things like paralyzing breath. And so there's a pretty nice wide option there. Did you have any other thoughts?
The only other additional ones is trying to throw in like some of the weird magics, just like a charm breath, an illusory breath. Something like that.
I'm tempted to go with just the dragon's breaths. And the only one I was gonna pitch was the old black dragon's anti-level breath.
Oh, like level drain? Oh no.
Yeah. That one hurts.
All right. So I have a pitch then. It's 8 schools of magic. And I think that we can get like 2/3 of the way there without too much effort by doing that, right? So number 1, evocation. It's what, a random element, right? Like roll 1d6, that's the breath. So that'd be evocation. That gets us that initial dragon flavor. I think that that's all good. Straight damage, good to go. Number 2, let me pull up. Spencer, can you pull these up? I'm going to try to too, but I think you'll be faster than me. You can just go to D&D Beyond and look at the spell sorting. You can like look at the spell sort by, and that'll get us most of it.
All right, what am I pulling up?
So go to game rules, go to spells.
I'm in spells.
And then you should be able to just look at our spell schools. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, I got the list.
Okay. So up first is, so we tagged evocation up at the top, and now we're going to put abjuration right below it.
Heal breath.
Yeah, so what does abjuration do? All right, wild magic. Is there a chance that it is bad and that it gives everything it breathes on +1 AC?
It makes sense with the wild magic. This thing doesn't have control over it. I think that's fun.
And because we are out of tier 1, I'm going to say +2 AC sort of suffuses the party. And the dragon's like, what? Conjuration.
Like, mate, Stefan has jumped in chat.
Yeah.
A wild magic dragon seems fitting to have spontaneous shape-shifting morphs too.
That's true, because they do shapeshift.
Yeah, they got that shape change.
And the other things, breathes out all the shields that the dragon ate.
Shield. The abjuration is just shooting out real night shields, like tight.
Quite literally, him just puking out the shields.
That is a hilarious way to view abjuration magic. We can't do it.
So conjuration. What happens when it breathes conjuration? What is it? Summon a bunch of skeletons and imps and stuff?
Yeah, it'd be like methods. Or Slad.
Summoning a Slad would be the meanest shit. It'll be summon. I'll write. You know what? We make big swings in this house.
Let's do it.
Summon Slad, or in our case, summon system neutral Chaos Frogs. Right? Let's get the legal back end covered. Divination.
Maybe the Conjuration when summons stuff based on what is hit by the breath. Be a fun idea.
We got oozes from James as well.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of if we wanted to
vomiting up one big ooze.
Yeah. I think it would be kinder than the Slad. It is a good option.
You know what? I think we're going to take it. I like it, James. It's less mean than the Slad, and it's funnier. You just see this dragon, like, choke up a big ooze that falls to the ground and starts sliding closer to people.
Now, we're getting to a hard one here, which is Divination.
Divination, I have a pitch for. Wisdom save, or you are confused as you see visions of your future.
Yeah,
that's fun.
Like overflowing your mind.
It's very fun. I like that.
I feel like enchantment's pretty easy. You get charmed.
Enchant will be a charm, and it'll just be a low DC.
Sure.
Or it could be a higher DC with a lower turnaround. Like if it's just one round, it doesn't really matter if the DC is crazy high. You'll brush it off quickly anyways.
Oh, you know what? I like that. I think it's high DC, and the only thing it can do is make you attack each other.
Yeah.
And so it's one round of you just turning and swinging at one another as this like enchantment breath goes around. All right, I like it. All right, what's below enchantment?
Evocation, which we skip because you already did it, and then illusion. Illusions. It just makes a double that you can't tell between that one and this one.
So the easiest thing to do would be it essentially casts mirror image on itself, or it does hallucinatory terrain. That was a hard word to say. You got it out.
Hallucinatory terrain. Yeah, I got there. For where it hits this breath, so it does the effects of hallucinatory terrain.
What does hallucinatory terrain do? I've never cast it.
Let me pull it up.
It's a fun spell.
A hag cast it on you guys 6 campaigns ago in beneath the ground of a windmill.
You make natural terrain in a 150-foot cube in a range look, sound, and smell like some other sort of natural terrain. Thus, open fields or a road can be made to resemble a swamp, hill, crevasse, or some other difficult impassable terrain. A pond can look like a meadow, blah, blah, blah. You can hide things, change things. The tactile characteristics of the terrain are unchanged, so they'll see through the illusion when they're contacting it. So, like, if it's a marshland and it looks like a meadow, you walk through it. But it could be, like, walls raise up. It obscures your vision. You're in, like, a forest now, so you can't see the dragon flying overhead.
Oh, there you go. Okay, see, you got me there. Illusory terrain, especially with the new stealth rules. So for those of you who don't know, this is DM Writer's Room, a show where we demystify the DMing process by discussing things and coming up with monsters and injury tables live. So with the new stealth rules, if you are obscured from the creatures you were trying to sneak up on, it is just a stealth check with a DC of 15, and you become invisible. Essentially. So this would be devastating. Yeah, it's a good change for basic like rules management. All right, I like it. Illusory terrain. It basically just gives the dragon the opportunity to hide and recollect its thoughts. What's next?
And now the next one is necromancy. And my first instinct was skeleton summon. My second instinct is vampiric breath. So it just hits everybody in this big cone and pulls life into themselves.
I think I like that a little better.
Yeah.
And the last one is transmutation.
And I hate to say it. It's gotta be petrify, right?
Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
It's gotta be petrification. Why are you saying it like that? What else could transmutation do other than turn you idiots to stone?
Yeah. It's so scary.
I know we've had petrifying monsters appear before, but I don't think we've ever had anybody turn to stone.
Yeah, in Theros, streamed Theros, we had somebody turn to stone from Medusa.
Yes.
Sorry, No, Medusa. I was
Medusa.
right.
I
Yeah.
was, if memory serves, my character was turned to stone, and I showed up the next day like, I hope you guys have fun, and then I immediately got unstoned, and I had a whole
Yeah.
bit going where I was like, I'm just hanging out, and then I
Kick
immediately
back.
got healed, and it's the only time I've been disappointed to be part of a combat, because I had a whole bit ready. I was gonna go pop popcorn, like I was really ready for that joke, and it just didn't come. It just didn't come
Ruined your
through.
bit.
So that is our Dragon's Breath taken care of. That is the full D8 of options.
Svan has said for the transmutation, turns gold into soil. Any of all other dragons?
Oh, that'd be great. It breathes on you, and it's like, yeah, you're poor now. That's poor breath.
I cast pour. Hilarious. All right, so that's its big gnarly stuff. So then we get into the breakdown that we always get into, right? Which is we need a couple of actions, we need a couple of bonus actions, and we need a couple of reactions. Not too many, right? We don't want to muddy the waters here. I tend to say you want, for large dangerous creatures like this, 3 actions, 2 bonus actions, and 2 reactions. You want this creature to constantly be able to do things, just because of the way D&D works. Most of the time when you fight a dragon by itself, which means every little bit of use it can squeeze out of its turn it needs. For those of you, again, DM Writer's Room, if you are making a custom monster at home and you are planning on the players fighting it one-on-one, it needs to be able to use every moment of its turn to do useful stuff. Otherwise, it's going to die instantly. It's really not going to survive very long. So we know what its third action is. Its third action is breath, right? Devastating, terrible thing. Its first action should be its basic run-of-the-mill attack. This isn't going to happen a lot. A lot of the times these creatures are going to favor sort of more impressive things, but it's important that they have something to fall back on in case they're tactically up against a wall. So what is that? Is it just, normally it's bite, claw, tail.
Yeah. Yeah, it's still a dragon. It's just a weird one, so I think that's still a primary.
I think bite and claw. It'd be fun to have one different one though amongst it.
I don't know. So I have an idea for that. And you don't have to say yes. I think if any of those hits are a 19 or a 20, you are polymorphed into a chicken for 1 round. What do you think of that?
I think.
Do you have an idea?
I think it is a lot. I think it's a lot. That's
it's too goofy?
Fear. It's not that it's too goofy. I just think that it would be really annoying if I was playing the game.
To get polymorphed into a chicken for 1 round?
Yeah, every time you got hit by one of these, you got chickenified?
No, if the dragon rolls a 19 or a 20, you get the chicken gun shot at you.
You get chicken. I think on crit, chicken gun is fun.
Can it be a little more than just a 20? Can it be a 19 or a 20?
Yeah. 1920 chicken gun effect. Is it on anything or just these primary bite, claw, tail?
It's just bite, claw, tail. And I would further like to say, what does the bite turn you into? What does the bite turn you into? Which one's the chicken?
I feel like a lamb would be bite.
Okay.
A chicken for a claw. And what would be fun for a tail attack?
Attack.
Oh, your close strength size? Hilarious.
Make it like a water-based creature.
A fish. You get hit by the tail and you're like a carp. Just losing its mind.
That's fun.
I like that. Lamb, chicken, fish.
That'll do it.
Now we have also lamb, chicken, fish. We have also listed out wedding dinner options.
Yeah.
Which I think is really funny. All right.
So big into weddings.
So it has an action that can turn you into an animal. You know what I love about that? That tells me what one of our bonus action does, which is something horrible to an animal.
Eat animal.
What does the second action do? So this is the action that can, this action should be able to be done from a distance or do something special to help the dragon survive, right? All of these abilities, we want to have a high chance of increasing the number of rounds the dragon stays alive. The breath is definitely going to do that. All of these effects lean in that direction. The first action does that. If a 19 or a 20 makes one person not be able to hit it for a round, that's awesome for the dragon. That means that it can survive a little bit longer. There's a little less damage output. What is this next action, right?
Something that'll help it survive.
That doesn't need to be like the main focus, but it's just important that somewhere in our minds is that, right?
It could be something with its like magical scales or something like
Yeah,
that.
I was thinking that like a hardened hide, something like that. So it
Yeah.
uses the magic around it to give itself like
Increase
an aura of
AC.
protection. Yeah.
Now, I will say that's a little closer to what MCDM uses as a villain action, which is like a big thing it can do once. Just because my
Yeah.
question is, if its secondary action is you gain 100 temporary HP, how does the fight not just turn into a terrible whirlwind of temp HP and higher ACs? But I like the spirit of that, something that makes it harder to hit as its secondary action, right? This is what it does when it wants to move and it doesn't care about doing damage, but it's got to be better than a dash. Is it like blink? Can it do like a
that's
short range
fun.
teleport?
Yeah.
Blink's fun.
It does like, isn't that Toothless? Is that who can teleport in How to Train Your Dragon when he like breathes fire and he goes through it and appears on the other side?
yes.
I am not a.
Um,
unfortunately, my I've only seen the first 2 of those movies, and it was a very long time
Wow.
ago.
Yeah,
I wasn't
him and the
yeah.
Light Fury can both do that.
Hell yeah. Anyway, that's how I'd flavor it if I was DMing this dragon.
Okay, so it has an action teleport, and so that's nasty. That means, hey, you don't get to do any of your like big cool stuff this round. You just live another round. That's what that action does.
And-
you get out of melee.
Would I guess this, I don't know if we could put this in the rules. Would a melee character riding on the back of a dragon be teleported along with it? Or does the melee character drop from where the teleport happened?
We would just
and
put it in the
crash?
text. We would just say like, and
Yeah.
if a creature is grappling the dragon, is like attached to the dragon, it stays or does not stay.
I'm just wondering, because I know that if I was a barbarian and they said, yeah, sorry, it teleports and you fall, I'd be so pissed off.
So my internal logic is I would say if a creature is grappling you, this is something I believe that I think a lot of people would get pretty grumpy at me for thinking. I think if you are grappled or a creature in any way and you cast teleport or dimension door or any of that shit, I think you bring them with you.
Yeah.
I really do. I think it makes the most sense. I think if you cast, even if technically you can only bring one creature, I just think it makes sense because it's not willing. Like this thing is grabbing you and trying to keep you from going. And so you have a choice, right? You either pull it with you or you stay, I think is a much more fun option.
Yeah, I think if you're grappling it, you go. If you're just riding or if you're just standing on it, it bamps away from you.
I think it's also
So
fun to give it as an option. It's like, what do you do? In that moment, you feel that you have to pick. Are you coming along or are you being left behind? Do you want to be alone with the dragon?
Yeah, wherever it goes.
Every barbarian is going with it.
Well, yeah, of course. Okay, so that's 3 actions. I think that's rock solid. Now, bonus actions. So first bonus action, only affects creatures that have been turned into an animal by the wild magic dragon. What happens? Is it devour? Does it like swallow you and you take damage until you turn back and then it vomits you up? Like what happens?
Yeah, I think that's fun. I'm not imagining this dragon as being massive, so it having to turn you into a smaller creature to eat you makes sense.
Okay, so that's great. So it's a crunch, and it does an incredibly large amount of damage, but when you turn back, it vomits you up.
Right.
It's not the same as
Yeah.
being eaten by like an astral dreadnought.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Big damn to animal. I love it.
You get another bonus.
And then we have another bonus action to figure out. Something a little bit more... I mean, we're pretty heavy in the wild magic flavoring, which I love.
What up, Bill?
What up,
We are
Bill?
calling you Bill. Tell us if that's not
It's
accurate.
a little bit of a dodge around to say the whole thing every time.
Yeah.
But no, I like it. All right, thank you very much for popping in the chat. So what do we think? What's another? So for those of you who missed, in the first half of today's thing, we came up with a new list of lingering injuries that I am going to start using in our actual play show. And then for this, we're trying to come up with a wild magic dragon's abilities. We have its breath as being based on different schools of magic. A lot of fun stuff on there. And now we've moved on to its actions, bonus actions, and reactions. It can bite, claw, tail like every dragon can, but it might turn you into an animal. It can teleport as an action, and it can breathe one of those breaths as an action. And then bonus action, it can crunch one of the animal morphed people for like terrible damage, which it'll only happen once, and then everybody's gonna go, oh, like unfish him, and then it's gonna be like I run up and I cast Dispel Magic on the fish. It's gonna be like constant.
Oh, yeah.
And then we have another bonus action sort of kicking in the background.
Bonus action now. I mean, my first inclination is sort of a roguish disengage as a bonus action, so it can get away from that up-close combat. If one of its primary focuses is breath weapon, I could see that as a bonus action disengage. Otherwise, I don't know. I can't think of any other interesting real attacks here, like as a secondary follow-up damage.
I could see almost like a debuff bonus action, like its scales just flash light, blinds everyone around him within like a certain radius.
Yeah, I like that,
Yeah.
like a chaos burst kind of thing. Like all
Yeah,
of a sudden,
flare magic.
yeah, it's like a chaos
Cool.
burst. Now, I think what that manifests as probably right is a really nasty version of the Bane spell.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so like a D6 Bane spell, and you can describe it however you want. One of the people is running, and then the air around them turns to water, and all of a sudden they need to swim out of it as they fall back onto the ground and continue to run towards the dragon. For another person, they're running, and the ground underneath their feet turns into beef, and they need to, like, it's all sticky and terrible. Another person's sword is still sharp, is still metal, but now is floppy. Is still floppy.
Yeah.
Totally still effective. It's just now a noodle. And so they need to attack that way. I think that's great. And you can just say, describe this however you want. Ridiculous things happen. And, 3 creatures that the dragon can see have minus 1d6 until its next round. And that's great because it's always good to have a bonus action that you just get to fire off every round. Because a lot of people will go, oh, but that's boring. I'll give it 65 more abilities. Nope. Players love that, like, be careful, we know what it's going to do next round, right? They want to feel like they are tactically starting to build up an advantage on the other creature. That leaves us with the reactions. It's gotta eat spells, right?
Yeah.
I don't want it to, but it has to.
Does it eat spells or does it bounce spells back?
Deflect missile.
Ooh, see, eating spells, I see it depends, right? I think it can hear me out. It deflects spells below a certain spell level. It eats spells if they are above that spell level.
We could make it. I do think that's fun. We could make it the same as counterspell, where it will eat under a certain level, or not under a certain level, but like if it succeeds on the roll for the counterspell, it deflects. If it doesn't succeed, it devours.
Okay. It's fun. Also said steal spell cast from the player and use it on the party. Uno reverse.
Yeah, so I think Bounce Devour is good, and it needs to make a check against your spell save DC, and we aren't going to give it a plus 20. Right? This is not a creature that has studied in long hours in candlelit keeps. This is a dragon that licked that like it drunk from a pool it shouldn't have drunk from, and now it can do magic.
Have you guys seen that picture, the painting of a dragon sitting by candlelight looking at a book with glasses on, like legs folded?
I've seen
I think
a lot
about
of
that
pictures
picture
like
all
that.
the time.
So here's what I'll say.
Send it to you later.
A brief non sequitur. We have a few moments here, and I'm going to describe them quickly. Bill has just said, I wish I knew more about rules and stuff. I'm a noob, but I feel like I'm learning. So I'm just going to break down very loosely. So we're coming up with a mid-CR monster right now. And so the reason that we're really worried about having all these actions and bonus actions is in D&D there's something really important that's just called the action economy. It's why, so 2014 Rangers were infamously kind of shat upon for not being very good. And the reason is they didn't have a good action economy. they would often be left with an action to do, but no bonus action, no reactions for off moments, just kind of having to sit there and wait for the right moment to appear. So you want to make sure that everybody can really densely use all of that action economy. And that's what we're kind of focused on right now. When we're talking about bouncing versus devouring a spell, bouncing spells exists in D&D. There's a ring called the Ring of Spell Turning that does it, and I think there's a couple of other magical effects that can do it, but it's quite rare, but it's a great fit for this creature. But it would suck to spell turn the 9th level spell back at somebody, and so we're just backing off it a little bit, and we're saying you need to pass a check, otherwise it halves the damage because it eats some of the magical energy, it regains some of it as health, whatever that looks like.
Now, also, the action economy is incredibly important here because we're working with one monster.
Yes.
It's not a dragon with like 56 goblins. If you're just fighting a big group, action economy gets way less important.
Yeah.
But one big monster, you really got to focus it.
Especially when you're DMing, right? If you have a party of 5 people and they're facing 7 monsters, they are getting outpaced. Like, there's more actions going around, creatures are moving, they're trying to stay focused on everybody while things are changing. If they're fighting one monster, it's melee characters get up close and hit it, ranged characters stay far and hit it. If it flies, ranged characters bring it down. When it gets down, the melee characters move in. It quickly gets really nasty. And so you got to make sure you're sort of thinking on the edge there. Now, we need one more reaction for my sort of ideal world, but we are also out of time. We are technically past. So I think, do you guys want to go long or do you want to call it here? Bill, I have good news. The new 2024 Ranger is better. So your wife will not be too disappointed. She has a lot more options in the new updated version than she did before. So bless on that. Spencer, what's up?
I would like to do one more reaction. I don't have any ideas. I can't think of
long.
anything off the top, but let's do another minute and get it through.
Yeah.
We've already dealt with
Okay.
magic. We've already dealt with a lot of the other aspects of wild magic. If this monster was really kind of a joke monster, what I would say is, as a reaction, roll on the Wild Magic Surge table, that immediately happens. That would be like the kind of joke answer that I would give you. But I'm not like super attached to that. That's just the first thing that came to mind. If I had to pick something else, I'm trying to think of the way it reacts to people doing things around it, right? No matter what, it's going to have an attack of opportunity. That's kind of boring.
Mm-hmm.
So
It could just be a reaction movement. It's not a disengage. It's not a port. It's just it can run away from you. You'll get your attack of opportunity on it, but it's going to be further away. It's going to move like 200 feet.
if we are imagining this as like a roguish dragon, it could be in response to an attack missing. It gets to move.
It can run. Yeah.
That's cool.
That's fun.
I say it might be a little mean, so you can say now another reaction is an extra chance of recharging that breath attack.
Oh. Woo!
Just mean.
That might be
that's
too
real
mean.
mean.
That might be too mean.
Write it down because that's a super cool ability, but I don't know.
You know what
Yeah.
that would be? That would be a really good bonus action. Is its breath weapon range goes from a 5 or a 6 to a 4, a 5, or a 6.
And it compounds.
That's cool.
Okay, so let's start with the other one. Reaction on miss, reposition. I think that's a great ability, and I think it makes a lot of sense. And then I am going to add the coveted, unheard of, third bonus action. Increase breath range.
That's so cool.
And I like the idea that it can like imbibe the chaos and maybe there should be some consequence attached to that. Something minor, but we'll have to figure out what that is. But we are going to have to figure it out off air. Thank you all so much for watching. This has been another episode of DM Writer's Room, where we demystify the DMing process by coming up with monsters, magic items, injury tables, wild magic dragons, and all kinds of fun stuff live. At Foolhardy Press, you can catch 3 streams. They all start at 7:30 p.m. Sometimes a little later than that, but usually stream starting soon will pop up, and that's how you know we're right around the corner. On Sundays, you can catch Game Masters, Masters of Games, where we play games that we feel we have already mastered or are about to. We just did a little 2-shot run. We played some Marvel Rivals just because we've all been having a lot of fun playing it. And we are probably returning to the shores of Baldur's Gate 3 to keep wading through the hip-deep waters of that ridiculously capacious game. We are playing the Big Boy Squad, and we only are playing with the large-sized companions. So Halsin, Karlak are the only ones we've been traveling with. And I guess eventually Minsk. Neither of you know who that is. I am the only one that has played these games a lot. Spencer has played them some. Michael has not played them at all. We will eventually meet one more big boy, and I think it's probably going to be Spencer's favorite. We'll have to see how that goes. On Mondays, you can catch The Party Makes Things Worse. That is our actual play stream. A little while ago, we played Monster of the Week with Spencer running it. Right now, we're playing Dungeons & Dragons with me running it. The current campaign is called Songs of the Reliquary. You're only 5 or so episodes behind. We are delving into an ancient and mysterious kind of palatial underground dungeon that is far off in a place called the Tomb Desert. Really fun. It takes place in a setting called Prospect that we came up with live on DM Writer's Room.
The stream.
And then, of course, on Tuesdays, you can catch the stream you are watching now, DM Writer's Room. So, stay tuned the entire beginning of the week. We are here to entertain you as best as we can. You can also check us out on YouTube, and for one, the setting sun of TikTok off in the horizon, you can watch Spencer's literal years of hard labor disappear beneath the edge of the trees. But enjoy that. Take that in while you still can. Definitely check us out on YouTube. We're doing a lot of really exciting stuff on there, and we are continuing to do that into this new year, which is great. Also, check us out on DriveThruRPG and itch.io. Our first adventure, Lich's Dollhouse, came out about a year ago. That is up on DriveThruRPG. We are continuing to forge ahead on a couple of other things to post there, but we literally all have jobs, and we do what we can. On itch.io, you can catch our one-page RPG, The Last Thanksgiving, a turkey-tinged tale of vengeance, where you play a gaggle of turkeys trying to kill the farmer and end Thanksgiving for good. That was extremely fun to come up with. We are really hoping to focus on getting those one-page RPGs and simple, fun things like that up on there pretty much all year. I think we can do it. We've been talking about it a lot. It seems like a direction we'll be able to head in. With all of that being said, thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one, unless Spencer yells something I forgot right now.
Like, comment, subscribe, share with your friends and family. That's it.
Hit the bell, right? That's us. Hit the bell.
Hit the bell, yeah. So that
way
way
we
we
have
fun.
fun.
Go live.
Thank you all so much for watching. It has been a pleasure. Peace out.
Bye.